Hey, everybody. Let's get this right, guys. We're professionals here. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today on the podcast, an interview with Jana Dagdagan. You said there's a couple different ways to say it. Will you say your last name for me as the way English speakers, and then maybe the Filipino pronunciation? How's that go?
Hi.
Hey.
The American pronunciation is Dagdagan. That's how I tell people when I'm talking to customer service hotlines. And then there's a more Filipino way of saying it, which would be either Dagdagan or Dagdagan. Now I just go by Jana.
Jana's good too. So people might know you from a lot of things, okay? A lot of things. Jana's done, she burst on the scene back in, I can't remember when, long time ago. But you made a big splash. You wrote for Stereophile. You've done some things on your own. And you've really kind of taken a hold of the mantle, I would say, for video production in this space, in the HiFi space. There's no equal for you. I would give our good friend Ray Farnott the nod for the best still photographer to ever grace us with his art. But for video, you take the cake. So you have your own YouTube channel, Jana Loves HiFi. You've done a bunch of other videos. You did some videos for Stereophile, too.
Yeah.
So also, though, some people might recognize your voice from John Darko's channel. You read the advertisements for there sometimes, don't you?
Yeah.
I was wondering if, as a favor, if you could just read me this one little thing that I'm posting in the chat right now. Let's see. How do I get in here? Oh, here we go.
Should I say it in how I would normally read it?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Jana Dagdagan, and you are listening to The Occasional Podcast, hosted by the greatest podcaster of our generation, Brian Hunter.
Perfect. Okay, now that we have that business out of the way, I wanted to ask you, being the voiceover ad reader for the Darko.audio channel, are you still working for Darko? What's your situation? What's your current sitch, as the kids say, or don't rather say?
No, not currently. This is a question I actually get quite a lot. I mean, we're still friends, but right now I'm focusing on building my own channel and working on projects for myself under my own name. I have so many ideas for videos that I've been excited to make since I was at Stereophile, or I mean, even before that. It's really important to me, and you know, I'm getting older, and I don't want to have any regrets.
Okay.
I know it sounds silly, but if I've had some of these ideas for videos I've been wanting to make for 10 years and I haven't even done them yet, what am I even doing? I don't want to let another 10 years go by, and there are so many videos that I want to make, stories that I think are really important to tell. I realistically don't think it's possible to do them all under another person or brand's channel. So it's kind of like it's now or never. But at the same time, I'm eternally grateful and indebted to Darko because he's not only been an incredibly supportive friend and mentor, but he basically picked me up out of the dumps when I was in really rough shape after I lost my job at Stereophile. He gave me editing work, but more importantly, I think he gave me a sense of purpose. I don't even know if I'd still be working in this industry if not for him. So the long answer to your question is no, not currently working with Darko.
Today's episode is brought to you by Expona 2026. America's largest high-fidelity audio show takes place April 10th, 11th, and 12th at the Schaumburg Convention Center near Chicago, Illinois. Plan a trip to the Windy City this spring and discover over 220 listening rooms of high-end audio equipment. Explore the latest in headphone hi-fi in Expona's Ear Gear experience and add to your record collection in Expona's Record Fair. Tickets are available now at www.axpona.com. Stop by Exponent.com and get an exclusive sneak peek at the show by listening to Expona's Audio Insider podcast. Check out all the details and purchase passes for the 3-day event. This episode of the Occasional Podcast is brought to you by AudioQuest. All AudioQuest products, from the company's most modest parts to its most ambitious works of art, are thoughtfully designed to deliver outstanding performance and exceptional value, regardless of price. No matter how little or how much you invest, AudioQuest is made for you. Explore AudioQuest's award-winning cables, power products, and accessories at AudioQuest.com. Today's episode of the Occasional Podcast is sponsored by Audio Vision San Francisco, located in the heart of the city by the bay on 1628 California Street. Audio Vision is a brick-and-mortar retail location that has been delivering some of the best sounds and hi-fi to Northern California for over 26 years. Come celebrate with Audio Vision on May 16th and 17th at their huge in-store listening and learning event, with 4 full demo rooms with gear from brands like Yamaha, Revival Audio, Moonbite Sim Audio, Dino Audio, Nordost, Silent Angel, 2 new Technics turntables, and much more. The 2-day event is free to attend, and you can find more details on their store site, audiovisionsf.com. Yeah, Darko was a very generous person to me as well when I first started, because I went up to him as like a fan before he had the YouTube channel. He just had the written word, but his writing is really, really great.
Yeah.
And so
really
I went
great.
up to him and I was like, "Oh, John, I'm a huge fan." This is back when he used to come over to the States, because he doesn't really come to the States anymore. He used to do American audio shows, which was great. And he basically was like very cool and calm and didn't again, freak out to my enamored behavior. But I've always enjoyed his writing, and his YouTube channel has done so well. So he's a focused, dedicated person to the art of hi-fi, and I think, check out his channel if you haven't. It's good. He does a lot of great stuff, and you have done a lot of great stuff as well. But before we get into all that, let's just rewind it back a little bit. Obviously, you've done a lot of stuff, but I like to start these interviews with let's start in the beginning a little bit. You play music. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming you love music to listen to. Mm-hmm. How did you first get into music?
Ooh, how far back can I go?
I actually like to start at the very beginning. Where did your mom put the headphones against the womb and you're like, "Man, Coltrane's the jam"?
I actually think that did happen, except for the jam part. It's all because of my parents. When I was growing up, they always emphasized the importance of the arts, music. They had me take classical piano lessons from when I was 4. Then later in middle school, I started taking alto saxophone and was in jazz bands and combos all throughout school. So loving and valuing music was instilled pretty early on. I remember growing up, I was obsessed with the Goldberg Variations by Bach. And I had this one CD that I got from Borders of Murray Perahia that I was obsessed with, to the point that my dad literally pulled the car over one day and was like, "If we have to listen to this one more time, I'm going to throw this CD out of the window." But when I was a teenager, all the other kids at school were listening to bands like the Backstreet Boys and Aaron Carter and music like that. I wanted to listen to what all the cool kids were listening to in school, but I'd come home and my parents would be like, "That's junk. Listen to the Beatles, listen to Ella Fitzgerald, listen to the Carpenters." And of course, now I know they were right.
At some point, that transitioned into hi-fi. What kind of was that pivot point for you growing up where you wanted to either listen to it more, or how did you get into writing?
It was kind of a journey of trying to make enough money to live in New York City while also trying to figure out what would make me happy, and just repeatedly failing, hitting a wall, hitting another wall. So I loved music growing up so much so that I decided to attend a jazz conservatory in Manhattan, which is what brought me to New York in the first place. At the time, I thought, this is what I want to do. This is what I will live or die by. I'm going to be a jazz alto saxophonist. At the conservatory, I was studying with the best jazz musicians in the best place, the jazz capital of the world. I mean, New York City. But I realized I didn't have this same burning passion for it that everyone else around me had. And if I'm being honest, I wasn't that good and didn't truly love it. Not in the way that true musicians love it. I had this romanticized notion of what that life was like in my head. So as soon as I realized this, I pivoted to a general liberal arts major just, in order to graduate, and then set out to try to figure out who I was. So I knew I loved music and started applying for every single job I could, trying out all different kinds of jobs in the music industry. I worked with engineers at jazz clubs. I worked at ArtistShare, this great crowdfunding record label where I got to hang out with Jim Hall and Maria Schneider. I was a copyist. I even bought groceries for a blind piano tuner. I was DJing at restaurants in Harlem. Basically, I just did any job that I could get that was in some way peripherally related to music. But I also had a bunch of other random unrelated jobs and was working like 2-3 jobs at once because it's New York City and the cost of living is so high. Like, I worked at a cafe, I worked at a wine shop, a cheese shop, I did dog walking. At one point, I was even waiting in line for cronuts and then delivering them to people. This was back when cronuts had just come out. I mean, it got pretty ridiculous at times. I just really needed work. I applied to more places. I applied to Starbucks, they didn't hire me. I applied to Apple Retail, they didn't hire me. And then I applied to this shop in Times Square that sold headphones, but also sold underwater cameras and umbrellas and even took passport photos. It was a really funky shop on a side street. They asked me if I could make videos of myself talking about headphones during the job interview. At that point, I just needed a job so badly, so I said, yes, I can. And to be clear, I did at that point have an interest in headphones, but I'd never shot or edited a video other than some basic iMovie projects in high school. And that is when it really started. That's when I started teaching myself how to shoot and edit, and that's when I first realized, okay, I think I really love this. I love making videos about audio equipment. I think I've found my thing. I was really awful at it, but I loved it. I got more excited about pro audio, getting deeper into studio equipment. I'd had Yamaha HS5s and an Apogee Duet 2 before this, just from being into music since my conservatory days and earlier. But now I was really diving deeper into the more technical side. So one day, I'm working at this headphone shop, and my boss says, hey, there's a headphone event coming up at this HiFi shop downtown. Maybe you should go. It could be fun. You could learn something. I was getting deeper into headphones, but I really didn't know much, so I thought it would be good to go as well. So I show up at this headphone event, and I'm telling anyone who will listen to me, I'm making videos about audio equipment. This is what I want to do. And by chance, one of the guys I say this to introduces me to Steve Guttenberg, who happens to be at this event. So I tell Steve, I want to make videos about audio equipment. And he says, if you want to do that, you need to learn about 2-channel, and the best way to learn about that is to sell HiFi equipment. So he says he's going to ask the shop owners if they're hiring. And I'm so embarrassed at this point. I'm like, oh no, what if they say no? This is awkward. And Steve's like, no, hang on. He turns around, he talks to them, and a few weeks later, I'm working at this shop. Before that, I knew that home audio existed, but had never really thought about it or interacted with it, really. At least nowhere near that level. But I was thrown into it working there. That's when I really started learning about 2-channel, home theater, and Steve would come into the store every now and again to check up on me and give me advice. He was a really great mentor to me. I mean, he still is.
When he shifted, he used to write. For those who don't know, he's always been very kind to me as well. But he was my gateway guy through CNET originally, and then he decided to go on the YouTubes, and he really just applied himself and crushed the content output. and it really blew up on YouTube as well. And I think that's probably where most people know him from now. But I remember him back in the day at CNET, and he's just been I think he's a great influence in the sphere. He's always
he really is.
done the right thing and produced great content.
Steve's the best.
So keep going. I like this story.
So at this point, I'm selling HiFi at this shop downtown because they hired me to be the salesperson. But I had no idea how to sell, and I didn't know anything about HiFi. All I knew was that I was really drawn to it and wanted to learn more and make videos about it. But I was basically a blank canvas. Mm-hmm. So I had this kind of stubborn, blind desire to make videos about a hobby that I really knew very little about. All right, so I'm a salesperson, but I'm not really selling anything, which is not ideal, obviously, for the shop owners. I keep telling them that what I want to do is make videos about HiFi, not sell HiFi. But it's a really strange thing to tell your boss that you want to do something that is different from what they've, in fact, hired you to do in the first place. I think I was just young enough and dumb enough to think this was somehow acceptable behavior. So I periodically told them this and kept asking if they would buy a camera for the shop that I could use. Because at this point, I wasn't actually making enough money to afford to buy my own camera gear because it's New York City. But eventually, months later, they gave in and bought a camera for the shop. I think it was a Canon T5 at that time. And throughout this whole time working there, I was still telling anyone who would come into the shop about how I wanted to make videos about audio equipment. Someone I told this to said, well, hey, maybe you should try doing that for a publication. Do you know Stereophile? And that's when I got it into my head that Stereophile probably needs videos. Maybe I could make videos for them. That's when Operation Get a Job at Stereophile started. And one day, a job posting came up online for an editorial assistant, so I applied, I got an interview, and then shortly after, I started working at Stereophile. When I was there, I was working directly with John Atkinson, but also Michael Fremer, Michael Livornia, Tyle Hertzens. That's also where I met Herb Reichert, Art Dudley, Ken McAuliffe, Jason Victor Serenas, and all those guys. It was exhilarating working there. Mm-hmm. Like, working with all of these great people. The office was in Midtown, and I remember distinctly thinking to myself one morning on the subway, this is the life. They had me doing admin work and emails and updating contacts and recommended components and things. I think I waited a week or so, a polite amount of time, before I started asking if I could make videos. So one morning I walk into John Atkinson's office and say, can I make videos for Stereophile? And John's like, no, but maybe you could write an online column, which is not what I wanted to do. I do not like writing, but I wrote thinking one day they're going to let me make videos. And every week or so, I would ask again and again, hey, so what do you think, John? Will you let me make videos for Stereophile? And again, I don't know why I thought this was somehow okay to ask your employer to do something different from what you've been hired to do, but I kept on doing it. And eventually, after I think 9 months later, after asking in every way that I possibly could, John said, okay, we'll get a camera for the magazine and you can make videos. Let's just see how it goes. I think I had just broken him down, and he was like, how can we get her to stop asking if she can make videos? I was so excited, but I still had no idea what I was doing. But to this day, I believe that those are some of the, if not the most significant videos of my career, because that's where I was able to start making videos of Art Dudley. The feedback that we got from making those videos was so heartwarming and encouraging. I felt that we were making stuff that really meant something to the viewers, to the longtime readers, because we were capturing these beautiful moments in time with these writers who many audiophiles came up reading since their early days. I felt like, oh, okay, we're really doing something that is meaningful, and that made me happy. So I had plenty of ideas for videos that I wanted to make while I was there. But then Stereophile and its sister sites were bought. And then the new owner was not so interested in video content, and I got laid off. That's when I started working with Darko on his YouTube channel.
Oh, I'll just add, for those who don't know, it's interesting because right around the time I started this podcast, I actually did a podcast for AudioStream and Interfidelity for a little bit. So they did give me a little boost that way too, and I appreciate the opportunity there. They did, unfortunately, stop paying the hosting fees, so those podcasts are no longer available. But they are out there somewhere in the ether, sailing around.
I didn't know that, actually.
You didn't?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, that's all right. So it sounds like you've always kind of had this love for video. Kind of give me an update what you're doing right now in terms of video production and your current status.
So currently, I'm working on my channel, which is called Jana Loves HiFi, and doing a little bit of client work on the side. But I'm really trying to focus all of my energy on projects that I really care about.
Didn't you do one about the Denon cart, the 103?
Yes. I'm working on a series called How HiFi is Made. The episodes are similar to what I did with Darko Audio for the American Made series, if you're familiar with those. Except that these are going to be on my channel and they're not limited to America. There are a few other differences, but those are the main ones. And this series celebrates the people and the production processes behind the HiFi that we know and love. My intention for the series is for it to be a celebration of craftsmanship and manufacturing, but still while being educational and fun. And yes, the first episode featured the Denon DL103 cartridge, which I shot in Shirakawa, Japan. Since then, I've released more episodes at Clear Audio and Odyssey, and I have more episodes in the works.
Tell me a little bit, from your perspective, having shot it, what makes the 103 special? Because it is a classic cart. Everybody talks about it. I don't know if there is a more famous cart in terms of just volume of people who know it. Give me the 2-cent pitch for the cart, and then everybody online go and watch a video.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's not the oldest cartridge technically, which I think is probably an Ortophone Mono or an SPU, but it's the longest continuously produced cartridge that is still made today in what I think is more or less the same way it's always been made since the early 60s. And it's a super stable, low-output MC that's just so affordable for what it is. A lot of the production process is just two people in a small room in Japan meticulously making by hand every single DL103. And one of the people in my videos has been making cartridges there for over 30 years now. So please watch my video.
Oh, man. So what's next on the horizon? I know you had some more lifestyle things coming out in terms of videos. Let me ask you this. If you could interview anybody and pull any behind the scenes footage from any product or brand ever, what would be your holy grail?
This is a really difficult question to answer. Western Electric 300B.
Tasty answer. Well done. Well done. I wish I had an applause button here for you. Hold on. Let's see what this does. Hold on. Ready.
Whoa. Thank you.
That one's better.
Wow, this is a loud applause.
Quiet down. Oh my God, I can't even hear you over this clamoring. Oh my God. We don't need all that. There we go. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
I think your videos, they have very interesting angles. They have like a cinematic feel to them more so than the point and shoot kind of vlogger thing that is so prevalent among a lot of the other content makers right now. Where do you draw that inspiration from? Like, why do you choose to be different than just like this is Jana holding a camera out in the selfie position?
I think that the position I have in this industry is a privileged one. Like, there are so many audiophiles out there. If we take the DL103, for example, and imagine the number of people over, 60 years who have owned and enjoyed music through a DL103, I'm sure many of them would love to have been in my position, to have been able to go to Japan, learn how they're produced, and meet the dedicated craftspeople behind the 103. This component that has given them so much pleasure over the years. So it makes me a bit sad thinking that they will never get to have this experience. When I was working at the HiFi shop, I got to go on dealer trainings and visit manufacturers and ask engineers questions in person. And when I was working at Stereophile and with Darko and now with myself, it's the same. I got to visit manufacturers, be in contact with them directly, go to press events, and have a level of access that your average audio enthusiast doesn't get to have. So I want to be able to share my experiences with them, if that makes sense. It's just such a unique hobby, such a unique industry that is fundamentally built around creating products that bring so much joy to people to be able to experience music in a different way. I want to be able to share this with them. So that's what motivates a lot of content that I create and how I see it. I try to make it as intimate and as personal, as close as possible, keeping them in mind. This was something that I felt strongly about, especially when I was working at Stereophile, because back then it was such a privilege to have one of my first quote-unquote real jobs out of college, working so closely with people like John Atkinson, Art Dudley, Michael Fremer, all those guys. I just so badly wanted all the other people out there who've been reading these incredible writers whom we hold in extremely high regard to be able to step into their homes with me and spend just a little time with them. That's the same feeling that I try to carry with me in my heart as I go into every video shoot that I do. It's not always possible given how chaotic things get sometimes, but I try to keep that close to heart.
Yeah, I never felt like I wanted to hoard access because access to some of these designers is somewhat sacred, I think, because they offer unique and hidden talents to the world that you only see through the products they make. But they are interesting folk. And the other thing that people who listen to the podcast know I talk about all the time is their sacrifices have been made to make audio. Like if you're really a high-end designer in your field, audio is not the most profitable direction to go, which I say quite often. So I just think that there are a special group of people, the designers, and they do deserve some celebration, at least in our circles, and they tend to be pretty recluse. There's some that will do polished videos of themselves, but giving them a chance to kind of see the people who inspired the consumers' good times, it's fun. It's fun. I think it's great not to hoard something like that, to like give them a peek behind the curtain, as I always say.
Yeah, precisely. I think that's what's so beautiful about you and how you run the occasional podcast.
Well, another thing that's really important to me is that we capture these personalities while we still can. It's no secret that a lot of the influencers and creators in this field are getting a little bit advanced in age, I hate to say, but I want to try to capture the scene, the zeitgeist, the overall feel of what's going on right now, because this is the moment we live in. I know there's like this massive golden age of hi-fi that I kind of missed out on in the 50s, and I don't want anybody else to feel like they missed out on the access or the vibes, as the kids say these days, for what's going on at this moment. And I think it's important that we kind of capture it as a documentarian or whatever. We put it in a time capsule and say, hey, we had something going on too, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah. A lot of people on both sides, people who are in the industry and people who are in this for the hobby, they're getting up there in age. And while I do hope my videos are interesting to a younger audience, of course, I also care deeply about making videos that audiophiles who have been audiophiles longer than I've maybe even been alive can enjoy. I want the designers, the engineers, the writers, everyone who we hold in high regard. There are quite a few people who have dedicated so much of their lives to this industry, and I want them to get every bit of recognition they deserve. I want them to be able to share that with everyone whose lives they've helped improve in some way. I take this very seriously.
Yeah. No, I also think that it's important because when you look at the overall way content is produced now, there's just so much of it. And making sure that we are able to highlight people who have put a lot of time and effort and created something positive, I think, hopefully positive, is important because there's so much out there right now that's diluted and confusing, and there's so much noise that, I would consider this a form of art. So those who have created some form of art that is a reflection of hi-fi is important because there's so much minutia out there where you go like, hey, these guys, they did a lot and they did it cool and they made it awesome and they were great writers or they were great videographers or they were great designers. Celebrating the great designers, I think, is important too. So do you have, now that we've been talking about the history of things, are you a fan of vintage gear? Do you have a favorite speaker?
I'm a fan of vintage gear, and I still have a couple pieces at home. The Fisher 800C, the Rogers LS35A. I don't think I can maintain it properly myself. So I love appreciating vintage gear from afar or enjoying setups that friends have with vintage gear. But I don't think I can take care of it properly and give vintage gear the home that it deserves. Give it the good life that it deserves.
Tell me what your system looks like right now. What do you got in it?
My system hasn't changed much in a few years now. I always have so much gear passing through here just because of my work, different shoots for clients. Like I think I actually have 7 or 8 turntables at home right now. My main system currently consists of 2 turntables. One is a John DeVore custom modified turntable with an Ortophone MC Quintet Black. The other is a Soda Sapphire with a Hana ML. And then I have a few Arlic pieces for my digital front end because I did a bit of work for them before they shut down. And I'm still rocking my Vinny Rossi Leo, which I absolutely love everything Vinny does. And for speakers, I currently have the Golden Ear T66 floor sanders over here. And
Very
everything is connected with AudioQuest cables. There's another system in another room of the house, which has Magnepan LRS Plus and a leak integrated. And also a Technics SL1300G. I also have a KAB modified SL1200 Mark II, but I'm not currently using it. And for headphones, I have a bunch of different Odyssey headphones, but my current favorite is the MX4. But I've been kind of itching to change it up a little, so I think things will change this year.
Today's show is sponsored by The Voice That Is. The Voice That Is, authorized dealer of premium high-end audio brands, is delighted to announce a 2-day event featuring systems showcasing multiple speakers and electronics manufactured by Tidal Audio, Analog by Acoustical Systems, and Vinny Rossi's Brahma 2. Hosted by Doug White and showcased in 2 large rooms, the top-tier systems will also include products by world-renowned manufacturers Turnball Audio, HRS, Metronome, Siltec Cables, ICRA Design, Equitech, and Network Acoustics. You are invited to share in this experience with a relaxed atmosphere, meet the designers, and learn more about the new products on display. The event takes place Friday, April 10th, and Saturday, April 11th from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. at the Chicago Marriott Schaumburg at 50 North Martingale Road, Schaumburg, Illinois, 60173. Come see the world premiere of a new Tidal audio speaker and Acoustical Systems A Stellar turntable and tone arms. You can find out more information on the news tab at thevoicethatis.com and their Facebook page. Today's episode of the Occasional Podcast is sponsored by Woo Audio. Introducing the WA300BAL. Woo Audio's first speaker amplifier. Your room, your soundstage, perfected. Every listening room is different. The size, the walls, the furniture, the size of the speakers, they all shape the sound. So why has every amplifier treated both left and right channels exactly the same? Woo Audio asked that question, then they built the answer. Exclusive to the WA300BAL, 2 independent motorized control, 1 for each channel, giving you the power to precisely dial in your speakers wherever you can put them, and place every instrument, every singer, exactly where it belongs in your room. The room no longer dictates the imaging and soundstage. You do. No equalizer, no room correction digital processing. Just pure analog precision in your control from your listening chair until the music feels like a live performance happening in front of you. The WA300BAL is a pure tube design utilizing a quad of 300B tubes in a push-pull configuration to deliver 25 watts per channel of Class A power, fully balanced from input to output and zero feedback. Custom hand-wound output transformers. The chassis is machined from a single block of billet aluminum. The 300B tube has been an audiophile favorite for decades. The WA300BAL was designed to honor everything the 300B tube does best and elevate it to the gold standard of audio. Woo Audio is a family-owned company based in New York, famous for their vacuum tube headphone amplifiers. Learn more about the new WA300BAL at wooaudio.com. That's www.wooaudio.com, where better sound begins. Tired of audio reviews that sound like they were written by robots? Us too. For the last 15 years, Part-Time Audiophile has been an open revolt against boring. And this year, we're doubling down. We have a brand new look and a brand new name, but the same old attitude. Find us at pt.audio for all your turntable throwdowns and amplifier face-offs. Great sound meets good times at pt.audio. Is there a particular aesthetic that speaks to you? Do you have like another fun little hobby? I think one of the most creative ideas I've seen in Instagram, you executed pretty well. You had this, I don't know if it still exists, but you had this Instagram account where everything was just like a really high key, just like a white or creams or just high key bright photos. And I just thought it was the most creative little aesthetic that you chose to execute on. Do you have any other little projects like that? Like, do you take pictures of toast or any little...
Wait, did you say toes or toast?
Toast. Do you have any other little art projects that people might not be aware of? Because I love that. That was actually, I would say, my favorite Instagram channel of all time. It's great work.
I don't really have anything like that. My only other hobbies would be reading, hanging out with my dog, and weightlifting, powerlifting.
I was just gonna say weightlifting. Actually, I was just gonna say you look like a weightlifter for sure. What book are you reading right now? What's the best book that you've read in like the last couple of years?
I don't know about the last few years. My Goodreads shelf is all over the place. I read a book recently that I enjoyed though, called Butter. It's by this Japanese award-winning author, Asako Yuzuki. I think this was her first book translated into English, and her latest book, Hooked, just came out. So I pre-ordered it, and it actually just arrived yesterday. So I'm going to read it after this. Usually I read a few different books at once, so I'm currently also reading James by Percival Everett and Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which everyone seems to be talking about and recommending, so I'm finally getting around to reading it. How about you? What are you reading these days?
Do people talk about books still? I haven't read a book in 20 years.
What? Is it because you're so busy podcasting?
No, I haven't read a book in a long time, but I was a big reader, so I have a lot. When I do writing, I appreciate great writing, but unfortunately, I have not spent an enormous amount of time reading books like I should, doing so much writing. I think it's important to like keep the exercise going, but I read plenty online. Just picking up a book, I probably should do it. I'd encourage everybody to.
Yeah, well, as long as you're consuming content of some form, I think it's fine. It doesn't have to be a book.
No, I think it should be a book.
Oh.
Everybody do exactly what Jana says. She said, read a book or else. She's been lifting weights, folks. Don't mess with her. She will crush you with her right hook.
That's like a totally different sport.
How much can you bench?
I can't bench that much, actually.
You don't say.
I can bench 60
pounds?
Hey, yes. But I can do 8 reps.
That's good. Way to go.
Well, how much can you bench?
None. My arms will literally just snap in half. I have a very brittle
You could probably bench
structure.
way more than me. Because you're taller.
I know. I have no choice in the matter. It's just my frame.
Oh.
So tell me a little bit about what you have going on right now. What are some of the current projects you're working on? I just saw this really cool video about you in a steakhouse.
Yeah, I want to do more videos like that. I do want to do more fun visits to different record-focused establishments. And I do want to eat more steak in my videos. I'll just bring steak everywhere I go.
I like that. I think that you should do a recurring bit at the record stores because I've seen some really good stuff. I wonder if there's something you could do at like Jana goes to every record store across the country. You know, there's a gentleman who has visited every single McDonald's across the country.
Wow.
Pretty gross. But I was thinking if you went to every single record store across the country, by the time you got to the last one, I feel like a couple record stores would have shut down and a few new ones would have opened up. So the path to conclusion will never come. It's an infinite, impossible task.
That's a really good idea. Would you join me on this world tour?
Yeah, I'm down. We just got to find a financier who was going to pay us just to go to record stores across the U.S. Nay, across the world. This is an international gig. We got to go across the world. Don't worry, it'll be cheap. Only a couple mil. We have to fly also first class and in a private jet. You know that, right? That's the only way to.
Would we fly from state to state? Because I was imagining a road trip.
I think just like across the city too. Like we'll just get a chopper.
I like the way you think.
So back to the projects. Tell me a little bit more about the projects you have going on besides the steakhouse.
Yeah, there are 2 projects that I'm deep in right now, which should be coming out right around the time that this podcast comes out. The first one is a pretty long documentary that I've been working on and off for the past year about Impex Records. Do you know Impex?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Correct answer. And for anyone listening, Impex is a boutique audiophile label, and they're putting out some really great stuff. It's a team of 4 people. They're operating at a fraction of the budget that I imagine a lot of other larger labels that we're familiar with in this space have. And each release is unexpected, beautiful, thoughtfully produced. I mean, you can really tell just how much love and care they put into each one. And for this project, I am excited to say that I was able to shoot with Al Di Meola and Patricia Barber, as well as some key people in the production process for Impex, like Rick Hashimoto, Edward Hashimoto, Doran Sourbeer. I got to go to RTI, Fidelity Record Pressing, Bernie Grunman Mastering, and Stoughton Printing Co. The plating process that I captured at RTI, I'm especially proud of.
And the other one?
And the other project is a video on Andrew Jones's new speaker company, Jones and Soretta. You probably already know this because you know Andrew as well, but he's starting a new speaker company with 2 guys, brothers, Jamie and Bill, and they're just such great people. Really nice to work with. This is a huge deal for Andrew, and I'm just so happy for him. And I'm also really honored that they asked me to help them tell their story. They reached out to me about a year ago to tell me about it, and I've just been so excited ever since. This video covers everything technical about the speaker, described by Andrew, of course, and then we also get to know his partners, Jamie and Bill, a little bit. It's fun. I hope people watch it and like it. Please watch it if you're listening.
Yeah, little known fact, Andrew Jones is the most frequented interview, aside from editor-in-chief, PT Audio, Mark Phillips, Andrew Jones is the most interviewed person on the podcast right now at 8 interviews. See, when I talk about accessibility, this is what I'm talking about. The guy is willing to come on the show. He's willing to talk about his speakers. He's a great interview, and I think that really lends itself well to how his approach comes to speakers. He's not trying to hide. He is who he is, and he is a smart individual who is inspired. And I think those are my favorite types of people to interview, at least. So we have this bit that we do at the end of every episode this season where I ask a series of 4 questions. You can only answer one of the options. So just say the one word, and you let me know what you think, okay? So you can pick only one. A MIT LS35A or a Quad ESL 57?
Quad ESL 57.
Pristine soundstage or pristine tone?
Soundstage.
Height, width, or depth?
Depth.
Perfect bass or perfect treble? And if one is perfect, it does not mean the other is terrible. It's that you can only have one that is perfect. Perfect bass or perfect treble?
Ooh, this is hard. Treble. No, bass. Bass.
I like how you changed it up. No one's done that yet. Everybody comes in so strong. What's the best bagel shop in New York City?
I don't like bagels that much.
Why is the pizza taste so strange?
Because the water is so good.
All right, Jana, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to grace us with your presence. Good luck on all your future videos and every little career path you choose. Hopefully you remained enlightened and passionate with whatever you choose to do.
Wow. Thank you. That was so much more spiritual than
You're
I
welcome.
anticipated. No, I really appreciate you having me on here. This is the first podcast that I've ever said yes to being on because it's you.
And how was the experience in hindsight?
I was pretty nervous, but it was a really good experience. I think just like how you are in person, you really try hard to make me feel at ease and try to lighten the mood. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. The Occasional Podcast is a production of the Part-Time Audiophile Network, which includes parttimeaudiophile.com, The Occasional Magazine, the PTA newsletter, and audiohead.com. You can stay in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The Occasional Podcast is produced and hosted by Brian Hunter, executive produced by Scott Hall at PTA Productions. The Occasional Podcast and its original associated music is monitored, mixed, and mastered on the Focal Trio 6 BE studio monitors. AI songs produced by Udio.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Occasional Podcast on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.
Yeah, speakers, cameras, tubes and amps and cables, shiny records and CDs on the tables, flipping through the line of notes and reading magazines, editing the timelines and making the scene. Jana loves HiFi. Jana loves HiFi. Jana loves HiFi. Yeah, on the Occasional Podcast, for the first time ever, Jana Dagdagan, what a national treasure. Jana loves HiFi. Jana loves HiFi. Jana loves HiFi.